My name is Lucius, and I was Annie's husband of 15 years. We have 2 preteen daughters who still love their daddy. I'm what you would call an alpha male that takes no shit from anyone, but treats his wife like the special prize I knew she was. In our relationship, I allow her to take charge and feel empowered to a point. Thanks to genetics, I inherited my dad's physical attributes. I'm 6 foot 6 inches tall, 265 pounds with an imposing figure, but a gentle giant until I'm triggered. Annie saw that a few times when we were out together and was hit on by some tough guys. She is a beautiful woman with a nice figure and an angelic face. Guys are always checking her out and flirting with her, which drives me crazy. One of my flaws is my mean, jealous streak, which once activated is hard to control. Over the years, I've learned to keep my rage at bay, but I have not yet mastered this talent. She had always been a great mother and wife, which really made this hard to understand. Sex was frequent and satisfying, not satisfying enough, I guess. She took care of the house and worked full-time as an executive assistant for a local tech company. To this day, I would never have thought she would have taken a lover. I gave her everything and always treated her like a queen, and she knows it. She tells her friends and family how wonderful I am and how it's embarrassing how I dote over her. But she also tells them how much she loves it. This is why the question still pounds my head, even during these last few hours. Why? Why would she jeopardize everything she has for a fling? An affair with her boss for some sex? Why? This was my most troubling question. Anyway, Annie had seen my jealous rage twice over the last 15 years, and she knows what I'm capable of. Twice when we were out, some jerks tried to get her to dance after she already told them she was with me. Both times, they didn't take no for an answer and pulled her out of the booth as I sat there watching. They must have thought since they were big tough guys, I would just sit there and let them take my wife. Big mistake. The first time it happened was when we were out discussing about our girls and having a fun time together. I was stunned when this guy had the balls to grab her hand and pull her out of the booth. Before he took his first step to the dance floor, I was out of my booth and between him and my wife. With a quick move, I dislocated his shoulder and pushed him into our booth, where he squirmed in pain as Annie and I left the facilities. The other time, it was similar, but that guy suffered a broken wrist and a concussion as we again left the bar. As I said, I don't take shit from anyone, and my biggest problem is jealousy, which again begs the question for this affair since she knows me. Why would she do this? It still amazed me how she thought she could have gotten away with this. She knows me better than anyone. She knows how intuitive, strong-willed, and unforgiving I am. Hell, she'd seen how ruthless I can be. I never stopped loving her even after I had my suspicions. Several odd things were happening that had not occurred in our 15 years of marriage, and my spidey senses were activated. Her outfits and her new look had changed significantly when the new boss took over the office. Our sex life had suddenly changed for the better. She was now actually instigating sex, which she had never done before. More frequent text messages at night and late meetings after work were now common. Of course, she had perfect excuses for everything, but for some reason, my jealous nature wasn't happy, so I hired a PI. I told the PI not to tell me anything until the file was complete. I didn't want things to change between us and prayed I was just a paranoid husband. After about a month of investigation, I was given a folder with the news I hoped would never come. I was heartbroken and filled with anger. After reviewing the video, audio, and photos, I informed my attorney to execute the divorce papers and have them ready for me as soon as possible. I planned a few days' trip to be with a friend so I could calm myself from the intense rage I was feeling. I just wanted to be away from her. So I told Annie I would be out of town for a few days for some work-related issues that required urgent attention. The PI had set me up with a software to add to Annie's phone to get copies of her text messages and emails. The application also had a feature to remotely record any audio and upload it to a private server. On one of the audio recordings, I heard her tell her boss that she was free Thursday night if he still wanted to get together. Of course, this idiot did, and excitedly said he would make all the plans. My brilliant wife knew I would be out of town. On that Monday, I got a copy of the text her boss sent to her, which included the time he would pick her up, the restaurant where they had reservations, and to dress sexy for him. I spit with anger after reading this and how my future ex-wife was acting, and the balls on this guy to pick my wife from our home. I planned to show up on their Thursday night date while they thought I was out of town. I planned a nice surprise for the couple. I had everything arranged. One of my fixers would accompany me and present the folder when I was ready. I would be there early and plan to give the hostess a nice tip to seat them in a more private location. My plan was actually a simple one. Let the lovers settle in with their first drink, then appear suddenly. At that point, I would start my performance, which would end with a small threat and the surprise divorce papers. My anger and need for revenge were rising. Deep down, I knew Annie would not want a divorce because she really did love me and the children. I knew what I was about to do would crush her and change her life forever. But I didn't care, and I just wanted her to feel some of the pain she gave to me. Now some would say I should be forgiving and let it go for the sake of the children and our 15 years of marriage. After all, it was only sex. Did I mention that I was an immature, jealous alpha male? No fucking way was I going to allow some other man inside my wife and then keep her as my loving partner. As much as I loved her and how much it hurt, I knew I could never look or touch her the same way again. I had eyes and backup on the scene ready to alert me at the right time. So, Thursday night, after getting the word that the loving couple was seated and served their drinks, I was ready to meet them face to face. I left my car and walked into the restaurant and smiled at the hostess, took a deep breath, and with my rage locked away, I proceeded with my plan. The loving couple was seated at their table, and my heart hurt when I noticed my beautiful wife wearing a sexy cocktail dress with her perfect breasts on full display. This really pissed me off as she never dressed like that for me. Why? Why would she do this to me? I couldn't understand this, it made no sense, and it was driving me crazy. Apparently, she wanted to be his eye candy tonight and look sexy for her boyfriend, and this put my rage on edge. I approached them from a side angle and made my way to the table without their knowledge because they were so romantically focused on each other. How sweet. It was only after I pulled a chair from the adjoining table that they noticed my movement. The look on Annie's face was priceless. She had a combined look of shock, fear, and guilt which I've never seen before. Her date had no idea what was going on and didn't realize I was her husband. He just looked at me with an annoyed expression on his stupid face. And so it started. I interrupted with a big smile. "Hi, Annie, are you two having a fun date night?" She asked what I was doing there, and that she thought I was out of town tonight, and that her boss, Jeremy, invited her to dinner to discuss some changes in the organization. She then immediately introduced me to her boss in a calm voice. Man, she was smooth. I had to admit, she was cool and fast on her recovery. The drink I had ordered before I walked to the table arrived, and after ignoring Annie's lies, I proposed a toast. I ignored her question, and with a disarming smile, I said, "Pick up your glasses and join me in a little toast. Here's to an interesting night and a new direction." After my toast, I smiled and turned to her boss and asked him if he knew why Annie and I have been able to stay happily married for 15 years. I told him it's as a result of honesty and trust. It was as simple as that. I then asked if he was married. Of course, I already knew a lot about him from the report of the private investigation. He admitted he's been married for 20 years and has 4 wonderful children from 5 to 13 years old, and that he agrees with me that trust and honesty are an important part of his marriage as well. I told him I was so happy to hear that. I then turned to Annie and asked if she also felt the same way. I asked knowing that I was putting her in a difficult position. She asserted confidently that it's been important to our marriage. I turned to Jeremy again and said we have an amazing marriage, and Annie knows how much I love her and would do anything for her as long as she remains faithful. I saw them both squirm a little as I took another drink from my glass. I then asked how long have they been dating. Annie was annoyed, tried to take control, and became indignant and said this was just a business meeting and I was embarrassing her with her boss, that I should please stop acting jealous, and that I know her better than that. Taking Annie's lead, her date took the opportunity to put me in my place as well. He claimed it was just a business dinner. He needed to discuss some changes he was about to make and needed to meet with Annie that night, that he's sorry if I got the wrong idea, and that he would never overstep his professional relationship, especially with a married woman. I tried to look apologetic and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. So you've never been out with my wife on a date, right? And this is just a business dinner, right?" He said, "That's right." And there was nothing going on between them. I looked at Annie and asked if it's true that it was just a business meeting and that she has never been with him or on a date before. I asked the question that would determine our future: honesty or lies, which was it going to be? Unfortunately, I already anticipated the answer before she spoke. She responded by saying it was only business meetings and that she would never be with another man, especially her own boss, and that I should please stop acting childish. She then quickly apologized to her boss and said I had a little jealous streak, but I know how much she loves me. I lowered my head acting submissive and said, "Please forgive me. I'm sorry I do get a little jealous. I mean, seeing you in this sexy dress out with this good-looking man, well, you can understand, I hope." Jeremy patted me on the arm, obviously relieved that I was fooled, and said there was no need to apologize, and if his wife looked this good and was out with a strange man, well, he's not sure what he would do. Everyone relaxed, and I raised my hand to the man watching us from the bar. He got my signal and approached the table. They both looked up at him as he handed me a thick folder, turned, and walked away. I saw Annie and Jeremy giving each other a questioning look as I opened the folder and started laying down photos on the table. Just before I placed the first photo on the table, I turned to Annie and spoke in a quiet, sad voice. "Annie, you know I loved you with all my heart and would have given you the world. You have taken my love and all our years of marriage and threw it all away. You have hurt me deeply, and I'll never get over those videos and the things you said about me. I'll never be able to get them out of my mind for the rest of my life. Thank you for that." The first 8 to 10 photos I put down was of Annie and Jeremy going in and out of a hotel multiple times at odd hours, and photos of them kissing each other like they were a loving couple. Annie gasped and put her hands up to her mouth. Jeremy was pissed and wanted to know where I got the photos, and I just told him to shut the heck up. After I laid out the photos, I took time to look at them and make comments on each one. I said things like, "Annie, you both look so happy in this photo. Did you enjoy each other?" She was now openly sobbing and begging me to stop. Other tables were looking our way as I tried to keep the volume down so as not to disturb the entire restaurant. She realized how bad this looked and only had one way out: apologies. She asked if we could just leave, and that she will explain what happened, and it's really not what it looks like. I looked at her with an amused expression and asked very slowly, "It's not what it looks like. Are you going to continue to lie to me? Before you do, both of you should know that I have hours of video, audio, text messages, emails, and photos. Annie, I must say that after seeing this, I never realized you could be that slutty." Removing the documents, I said, "Now let me explain why I'm here and what's going to happen tonight." I then handed Annie the divorce papers and said, "Annie, you and I are done. You and your boyfriend destroyed our marriage and my love for you. You have hurt me to a level I've never experienced, and I will never be with you again. Now, you're going to sign this tonight, and my associate at the bar is a notary and will attest to your signature. If you don't sign tonight, I will expose all of the video and audio evidence to your parents, all of our friends, and your children will find out what kind of mother you are. I've treated you fairly in this divorce, but the girls will live with me. There is no way my daughters will live with a cheating slut like you. I turned to Jeremy and said, "My friend, I suggest you convince your girlfriend here to sign this before I leave. Otherwise, I am going to deliver a copy of all the evidence to your wife and your executive team at work. And when I'm done, you will not have a job. And I'll be sure to convince your wife to kick your ass out and ruin you financially for a very long time. Now, I don't want to do any of that, so just convince her to sign the divorce papers and then my future ex-wife is all yours. I want nothing to do with her ever again." The words slashed her heartstrings. The thought of losing her daughters was something she could not live with. Tears were flowing from her face, and her boyfriend looked panicked. Annie begged me to stop and reconsider. She gave me the usual bullshit lines. "It's not what it looks like. Let me explain. I'll make it up to you. It was just a mistake. Please forgive me. Blah, blah, blah." She ended with, "I love you and I don't want this. Please give me another chance." Ignoring her pleas, I stood up and said, "I'm going to the men's room, and when I come back, I want the papers signed. If they are not signed, I promise that both of you will not be able to comprehend the amount of hell I will bring into your lives." I left Annie crying and her lover in a state of shock. I knew Jeremy would do whatever he could to get her to sign those papers to save his own ass. I was about to leave when I heard Jeremy convince Annie to sign the papers and later asked me to hold them for a week to give her a chance to talk. He knew that there was no way he could have his wife and his work see those videos and pictures, and would do whatever he could to prevent that. Few minutes later, I returned to the table. I asked if she had signed them yet, and with the saddest face, she said she'll do whatever I want, including signing the papers, but will I please give her a week to talk to me before I do anything? I sat silent and looked into her eyes for a long moment and considered her request. I gave in and said, "Even though you deserve shit from me for what you've done and how you threw away our marriage for this asshole, I'll give you that. You can come home and you can have a week before I turn the paperwork into my attorney. You will stay in the guest bedroom. I don't want you near my bed during this time. Now sign them so I can get out of here." She signed the papers, and I put them into the folder, then stood up to leave. Before I left, I took her hand into mine until she realized I was removing her wedding rings. I put them in my pocket and then removed the ring I had worn for 15 years. I held it up as she looked at it and carelessly flipped it into her glass of wine. The look on her face gave me only a small amount of satisfaction, but when she started crying again, it made me smile just a little because I knew she was starting to feel my pain. I turned to Jeremy and said, "Well, asshole, she's your date. Do what you want with her. I'm leaving. But remember this, you ducked my wife, ruined our marriage, and jeopardized so many things, including my children's love for their mother. Your ass is mine, and I have your balls in my hand. Don't fuck with me. You're lucky I didn't follow through on my original plans for you. It's not over between us. You will be hearing from me soon. Got it?" Jeremy nodded quietly as I towered over him. It looks like I may have ruined their plans for the evening. I wonder if they still want to duck after I leave. As I started to leave, Annie grabbed my arm and begged to come home with me, that she just wants to be with me. I pulled my arms away as if touched by a hot iron and said, "Damn you. I don't want to be seen with you. You're his tonight. I'll see you after he's done ducking you tonight or tomorrow. Makes no difference to me anyway. You have 1 week." Okay. Yes, I was a dick, but I really didn't care. I felt as if I kept my jealousy and anger in check. I was proud that I was able to suppress all the built-up rage. I did give her a week. I heard her come home about an hour later that evening, and she went directly to the guest bedroom. She realized there was no way I was going to speak calmly to her that night. We met the next morning in the kitchen when I came down for coffee. I was still in a revenge mood, and I continued my dick persona and said, "Good morning. How's my slut wife today?" She cringed and looked down into her coffee and said exactly the words every cheating wife that gets caught and wants to save their marriage says. "Honey, we have to talk." I told her there was nothing to talk about, and that I knew what she did. I knew how long she had been doing it. I knew all the things she said to him about me and our marriage. I saw how she dressed for him. I told her she lied, concealed, cheated, and took me for a fool. And I can't believe she was that stupid. And that if I'm missing anything, then we can talk, otherwise, I have nothing to say. She responded by saying she was the fool, not me, that she didn't know why she let it happen, that I gave her everything she ever wanted, and that she loves me regardless of what I heard in those recordings. She said I have to know she never meant to hurt me, and she never wanted me to find out. I said, "Exactly my problem, Annie. You never wanted me to find out. You wanted to keep it a secret and continue to lie and duck your lover behind my back. That's the real issue here, Annie. I can forgive infidelity. Hell, we're all human and make mistakes, but this was a mistake. You wanted this, and you wanted to keep it a secret and continue to lie, cheat, and conceal your relationship. My trust is gone, and I wonder if I really ever knew you. How many other men were there? How many times did you duck your lover and bring yourself back to my bed full of his sperm? I'm so disgusted, I can barely speak." She started sobbing as she realized what I was feeling and understood what she had done. She had no comeback or excuses, but admitted her wrongdoing. She said she was guilty and hated herself, and that there was never anyone else. And no matter what she said, she knows I won't be able to forgive her for what she did. But she doesn't want to get divorced, and she'll do whatever I want to stay in this with me. Said she thinks she needs counseling, and maybe we could go together to find out what's wrong with her, and I shouldn't leave her. I was silent for a moment and said, "You can go to counseling, figure out whatever you need, and I'll support you. But I can't live with a woman that can throw me away so carelessly. Your actions and the things you said told me your true feelings. And I don't see any way I can live with someone that feels that way about me. I know there are other women out there that would be more than happy to be with me. You had your chance, and you freely gave it away. Enjoy your week here with the girls. Try to explain why you're leaving. I will not disparage you, but you need to tell them you're leaving and why. In the divorce agreement, I've given you full access to the girls anytime you want, but they will live with me. If you continue to slut around and be a bad example for the girls, I will make your visitations much more difficult. Look, I'll treat you better than you deserve and help maintain your relationship with the girls. But I have 2 questions I would like answered. Listen to my questions and think about them before you answer. My first question is, why did you risk everything for this? My second question is, was it worth it? I called Jeremy the following Monday and told him to meet me for lunch on Wednesday. After convincing him how smart it would be to meet me, I explained to him how upset I was that he destroyed my marriage and how close he came to being taken out. I then explained how I had a better plan for him. During lunch, I explained how many people were hurt because he seduced a married woman. I explained how I expected him to make restitution. He was going to pay for Annie's rent and car payments for the next 3 years. I felt he should have some pain for his actions. I explained how it would work. I told him I'll send him the payment information so he can set up the automatic payments. I told him this was his punishment and that he's getting off easy. I said even though I'm done with my slut wife, I still cared for her and wanted her taken care of. And since he's the one that caused this, he will follow my demands. I told him this arrangement will help Annie get on her feet after I kick her out, and I don't care how he does it. But if he doesn't follow through on it, I will make sure he loses his job, and that his wife finds out about his infidelity. I told him that all of this is because he had to seduce a married woman, and that he doesn't understand that there are repercussions for his actions. I then asked him why didn't he go after single girls instead of breaking up families, that was really a bullshit move. After the divorce, I treated Annie well, allowed her to visit the children, and kept their relationship strong. We remained friendly, but she never gained back my respect or trust. Jeremy made those payments every month with my threat hanging over his head. Annie was never able to explain or answer those questions to my satisfaction. She was clear that her cheating and lying were not worth it, and was sorry she did it, but she couldn't explain the why. She still lives alone and without the love she once had. I could have destroyed her, but losing her family and my love was enough of a revenge. Even with her counseling, the answer to the why question still could not be explained. The best she could come up with so far was that she didn't know why. It just happened, and that it had nothing to do with me or our marriage because she does love me, and she was happy with our sex and our life together. But it was something new and exciting. She screwed up. I could not hold back, and I told her that if she was happy, why would she dress up and wear sexy clothing for him? Perhaps if she had made that effort with me, we wouldn't have been in this position. It just happened isn't really an answer. She did it over and over, and she dressed to turn him on each time, but she tells me she loved me. Finally, I told her I hope someday she can tell me why, and that I think she owe all of us that much. For us husbands and boyfriends that have been cheated on, this seems to be the riddle that can't be solved. Thanks to these two cheating couples, I'm not sure I can ever trust or give myself fully to another woman again. Sad but true. Married partners should consider their actions and the consequences they inevitably bring. The path of destruction left behind is greater and longer lasting than the excitement of sexual gratification. Speak with your partner. Either share each other's needs or leave the relationship, but a betrayal is a painful act with long-lasting effects. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Take care.